Hey, baby girls. Time to wake up. Ready to get up with shoes on? All right, come on, let's get up. This is the morning of that. The routine's a little different. She's real shy and learn a lot about raising a little girl. So, me and our mom were together 7 years, almost 8 years. We lived here most of that time. I met her at the homeless shelter about 7, 8 years ago, and basically we made a home, for 7 years, and then she decided to go back to Springfield, and my life just fell apart. Her drug abuse really drove me over the thing, It was basically she was never there for Haley. That's all right. You waking up now? First of all, her name was Haley Dawn O'Keefe. She's real shy when you first get to know you. But once she gets to know you, you will never get her to shut up or quit playing with you. Want to go brush your teeth? No, not this morning. Brush them last night? No, I'm going to start checking you, huh? That's real good. I have 3 other kids that are over 18. I don't see them much. I didn't get to see my other kids, so when Haley was born, I was ecstatic about her, I was, had to be there for her. I quit running around, quit running the streets and stayed home and went to work and took care of Haley. And ever since then, she's my world. We do everything together. She is a cutie. She gets a lot of people's attention. Why you have to kick so hard, huh?
Dennis and his 6-year-old daughter, Haley, have had an apartment in Lawrence since September of 2014.
It's just such a relief to have your own place, because without that, you're always constantly worrying about what you're going to do next, where you're going to lay your head. And, even at the shelter, it was nothing like the peace I have now.
I have been homeless 3 times in my lifetime. Once in California when I was 19 years old. Had bad spell there. Their shelters were 7 days in, 7 days out. That was for about 6 months, and that was a bad experience. I got stabbed in the face.
He just really cared about people, and Dennis just wanted to make sure that everybody was okay. And Dennis was like a defender.
Life lesson, I was drunk and somebody was messing with the one with the baby, and being the type of guy I was, I went and confronted him, and he had a little knife in his hand when he hit me. So after that, I got stitches, and then I left California, came back here.
Here in Lawrence is also where Dennis met Tammy, Haley's mother, who was also homeless at the time.
Right before I met Tammy, I had a place to stay, then I became homeless then for about 3 months.
It was 2007. Tammy caught Dennis's eye, and they grew fond of each other. Eventually, they moved into their own home and had Haley. This won't last. But Tammy's increasing cheating and substance abuse became a growing problem. After 7 years together, Dennis decided it was time to get out. In the beginning of 2014, he took Haley and left.
This last time was 5.5 months. It was the hardest time.
I see this, this big guy kind of milling around, walking back and forth, very nervous, seemed like he was a little agitated. But he just left his significant other and his daughter, and he's never been a single parent. And he doesn't know how to be a single parent, and he's really freaking out about this, about his daughter, about his health, about his disability.
I have a rare blood disorder, so I'm a bleeder. So I can't work in restaurants, I can't work around a lot of people.
But after multiple altercations with other shelter guests, Dennis realized the problem stemmed further.
He came to a point where he was like, where we had talked over and over about how we had the same situation of where his anger would explode.
Dennis discovered he was bipolar. Unpredictable states of mania can make his brain activity unstable.
It's like a bunch of needles going through your body, and you just drank jet fuel, and you can't stand still, and it's like your mind's going racing 100,000 miles per hour, and you're like, you can't stand to be around people. Noises bother you, and it's like you're walking through them. It's like you bump into them, you don't even look back.
And Dennis isn't alone. For the homeless in Lawrence, disability is common. A 2013 survey by the City of Lawrence's Homeless Issues Advisory Committee found that medical conditions were the cause of 31% of homelessness in Lawrence, and 40% of disabilities involved severe mental illness. Dennis would need to learn to control his mood swings to get back on his feet.
And then he finally decided he would do something about that, and he started to look into why it was that he was always angry. And that's when he went back to his childhood.
My life was pretty rough growing up. My dad was a biker, so I was raised up into the motorcycle club type atmosphere. A lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, a lot of, sex, violence, whatever. We got whooped a lot, and, punished a lot for little things, big things. It didn't matter. My dad and mom got divorced when I was real young. My mom moved back here basically from a broken home, so I came visit my mom and back and forth, so, and then, basically I made this my home the last 20 years. This was my point of return. Every time I left, I always came back to Lawrence.
He really found a home here for the first time in his life. He felt at home in a community of people, especially with staff, to really help him and support him.
But like most places, Lawrence isn't perfect.
The homeless get harassed. I had a friend that was homeless. I walked through the park after 10 o'clock and got a ticket for walking through the park because basically he was trying to make a shortcut. And another one fell asleep on a park bench and got a no camping ticket.
Our parks do have hours, so they are closed on a daily basis, typically from about 11 o'clock in the evening to about 6 in the morning. And when people are in the park after those hours, they are usually contacted by the police if we happen to either get a call or just on patrol notice, those sorts of things.
Most of the city council and most of like the governor and most of the law enforcement are really against panhandling, and they are against homelessness. Because a lot of the homeless people, they do not try to help themselves, they try to harass people or go in front of businesses and try to harass them.
As far as enforcement goes, almost all of it is driven by complaints. So if somebody calls about a particular violation, the officer goes out and assesses whether or not it meets the criteria that's outlined in ordinance. Aggressive panhandling, or putting out a bedroll and setting up a structure, to sleep there. Those can be addressed. If that is the case, the officer still has discretion as to whether or not a citation is issued, whether or not someone is just asked to cease that behavior, or potentially they could receive a citation.
Facing increasing complaints from business owners and a growing homeless population, in 2007, the shelter sought to build a larger facility. To do this, they needed to move from their downtown location on 10th and Kentucky to the closest neighborhoods. But out of the neighborhoods in the city, none would take them.
Everywhere they found, they got denied and stuff. They wanted to get the homeless out from downtown area and out of public view.
With nowhere else to go, the shelter was forced by the city commission to move to the edge of town in the industrial part of East Lawrence on December of 2012.
It's really far from everything the guests need, from Heartland, healthcare, Burt Nash, all the agencies they need to help get back on their feet are about 7 miles away.
Like a shelter, they don't even give rides no more to people to get back and forth nowhere. They got to take the bus because they're not insured.
To accommodate the increased distance, the city added a bus route that stops near the shelter once per hour. Not only is transportation a problem, but with the stigma given to homelessness, coming out of it can prove difficult.
I think people think homeless people are lazy and they're just drug addicts and they just don't want to work or they don't want to be successful and they just want somebody to take care of them.
There's some people I wouldn't help out there. And there are some bad ones out there, don't get me wrong, but they're not all bad.
The folks here aren't lazy. They're also fighting depression, anxiety, mental and substance abuse, other substance abuse and mental issue problems.
I read once that probably like 97% of the people that we serve in the shelter in general, not just our shelter, but overall, have traumatic experiences.
As a kid, I was molested, so I have a lot of trust issues with that. That's why I'm going to therapy. So with my sisters, through babysitters and other family members. Basically, for a long time it was a hidden secret. And then when you get to where you get to the boiling point where you can't stand it no more, when you finally tell somebody, it's like a relief.
Once he was back on his feet, the next step was finding housing.
The rent is ridiculous around here. I went and checked on like 30 places, and I couldn't even afford to get anywhere but here.
The Homeless Issues Advisory Committee estimated that 34% of homelessness in Lawrence is caused by the lack of affordable housing. The median price for renters, based on a 2009 study, was $664 per month. For a bottom-tier two-bedroom apartment for him and Haley, Dennis pays $450 per month plus around $300 in utilities. Living on only a $765 disability check, it's barely enough to get by.
As being a single dad, it's real hard and real scary right now. As every day goes by, it's scary. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to nobody. It's scary being on your own raising a little girl, especially when you don't know, you just make enough to cover the rent and stuff. But it seems like everything comes through for me. I'm blessed in a lot of different ways.
And to take care of my daughter, and the hardest thing is looking at her knowing that I can't give her everything I used to. But one day I will again. I'll be back on my feet and she'll have what she wants. That's my goal.
It was a big tall slide and we went down it the first time. She was real scared after that. It was like, yep. Every time. Ride with me. Look at that static in your hair. It's all about our future and showing that we want to do something with our future. And as getting old as I am, I really want to show my community that we can do something good for it. Even if we have to go out there and take all day, shovel some snow, somebody that couldn't do it, help somebody that can't help themselves, and be proud to do it as volunteers and not complain about it. I want to teach her that if you work hard and earn your respect, you're going to have your respect, and it won't hurt her to do some hard work. And if she goes into any fields like that, she's going to learn the compassion of people. It shows the compassion to help somebody that nobody else will. And I want her to be proud of who she is and what her community does. She is our future. She's our bright future. She may be young now, may not know it, but someday she's gonna be something special. She's already something special now, but she's gonna come to do something that nobody else has ever done. I want her to be proud of herself and not regret no decisions she ever made in her life, because ain't no time for regrets. It's time to grow and learn from your mistakes and teach your children. A little hard work, it pays off in the end. You gonna play?